Today, we're diving into one of the most incredible stories of defiance from the very first days of World War II. It's the Battle of Wizna, a clash so legendary it's earned the nickname Poland's Thermopylae.
Just look at this number, 40-1. That was the ratio of attackers to defenders. I mean, think about that. It's an almost impossible imbalance of power.
And that really gets to the core question here, doesn't it? What happens when a tiny, determined group of soldiers decides to make an absolutely impossible stand? Well, let's find out.
So we're in September 1939. The German invasion of Poland has just kicked off. And just like those ancient Spartans at Thermopylae, a small Polish force found itself staring down an enormous invading army, and in doing so, created a legend that people still talk about to this day.
For 3 whole days, they managed to stall one of the most powerful armies on the planet. Look, they knew they couldn't win this fight. That wasn't the point. Their goal was to buy precious time and become a symbol of resistance that would echo for generations.
So you might be wondering, what made this particular spot so important? Well, it all comes down to some smart geography and a line of defense that was built in a hurry.
If you look at this map, you can immediately see why this location was so brilliant. The Polish defenses at Wizna were set up on the high banks of these 2 rivers, the Nerew and the Bibza. It created this perfect natural choke point. For the German army to push towards Warsaw from the north, they had to get through here. There was no other way.
Now, the defenses themselves were pretty tough. But here's the kicker. They weren't even finished. They'd only built 16 out of a planned 60 concrete bunkers. But the ones they did have were serious business. We're talking walls 1.5 meters thick, packed with steel and perfectly placed on hills overlooking a swampy valley. It basically forced any attacker straight into a kill zone.
And this is where the story gets truly insane. The sheer mismatch between the 2 sides is almost hard to wrap your head around.
So, on one side, you've got Captain Władysław Raginis, a dedicated Polish officer leading a tiny force. And on the other, the legendary General Heinz Guderian, basically the father of blitzkrieg warfare, leading his entire 19th Panzer Corps. A total David and Goliath situation.
Let's break down the numbers. The Polish force, at most, maybe 720 men. Some accounts even say it was closer to 360.
And who were they facing? Over 42,000 German soldiers. The scale of that is just staggering.
Okay, what about fire support? Well, the Poles had exactly 6 small artillery pieces.
The Germans, on the other hand, brought almost 660 pieces of artillery. You just can't even imagine the noise. The sky would have just been screaming with shells.
And armor? What about tanks? The Poles had 0, not a single one.
And Guderian's Panzer Corps? They rolled in with 350 tanks, the literal steel fist of the German invasion.
So let's just put it all together here. It's absolutely breathtaking. Around 720 soldiers with just 2 anti-tank rifles against 42,000 soldiers, 350 tanks, and hundreds of artillery guns. This wasn't a fair fight. This was a hornet trying to fight a bear.
Okay, so let's get to the battle itself. Let's see how this unbelievably desperate defense actually played out over 3 of the most intense days you can imagine.
So it all kicks off on September 7th, when Polish engineers blow the main bridge, stopping the German vanguard dead in its tracks. By the 9th, Guderian's entire force is there. They unleash this unbelievable bombardment. They even drop leaflets from planes telling the Poles to give up, but the Poles refuse. The final day turns into this brutal up-close fight, with German engineers having to go in and destroy the bunkers one by one.
And here's the key thing. The Polish defenses worked exactly like they were supposed to. They forced the German infantry right into those swampy fields in front of the bunkers, where they got pinned down by absolutely withering machine gun fire. This was not the lightning-fast blitzkrieg the Germans were expecting. It was a slow, bloody, and incredibly frustrating grind for the invaders. But in the end, the battle really came down to the actions of one man and a solemn promise he made to his soldiers.
To keep the spirits of his hopelessly outnumbered men from breaking, Captain Raginis swore an oath. He told them, "I will not leave my post alive." And that promise would come to define the final, tragic moments of this siege.
By midday on September 10th, the situation inside Raginis' command bunker was just hopeless. His men were wounded, they were completely out of ammo, so seeing no other choice, he ordered his surviving troops to surrender. He wanted to save their lives. But for him, surrender was never an option. True to his word, the badly wounded captain pulled the pin on a grenade. He fulfilled his oath.
And this This is what's left of his command bunker today. It stands there as a memorial, a shattered but incredibly powerful symbol of that three-day stand, and a lasting testament to a promise that was kept.
You know, in the end, the Battle of Wizna was, of course, a tactical defeat for Poland. The Germans did break through, but it became this profound moral victory, a story of unbelievable sacrifice that fueled the Polish resistance for the rest of the war. And it leaves us with one last question to think about. What is it about a story of hopeless defiance that makes it echo through history, turning a lost battle into an immortal legend of courage?